by the way. So we are 15, okay, now 17 on the call. We are supposed to be 100 and something. I mean, 50 something. David, please correct me if I'm
Yes, yeah,
is it
167, 67.
167.
Yes, please.
So, David, I would employ you to also help me take the attendance so that at the end of the day, I'll cross-check what I have with what you have. Is it okay? So please, we are only 18 on the call. Let's wait for how many minutes? Maybe they didn't sleep early, so maybe let's wait a while. Let me see how many join. I'll come back at 8:10 to see how many join, and then we can proceed. So please tell your colleagues and then to join so that we can start. By the way, where did we end the last time? Did we finish the first slide? Hello. Please, did we finish the first slide?
Yes, please.
Moving to the second slide today. In fact, this week hasn't been a very good week. The rains and other things coming up, trying to mess the whole debate, the whole week. But let's see how it goes. I would go, I think I'll put the second slide there, but I'll go and update it with other slides as well so that, and then I'll put some assignments and some other things over there. So please just be going the coming week and then you see a lot of things up there or in the LMS. So, mhm. Yes, David. We are only 39. How many minutes should I wait further? And class, how many minutes should I wait further before we start? Hello?
I think we can start.
Okay. So do you agree? Because I doubt if, I mean, we are 45 now. Yeah, Theodore, your hand is up. Yeah, Theodore, your hand is up.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, Theodora, yes. Okay, good morning.
Yes, sir, please, some of our colleagues who are affected by the floods have said that they wouldn't be able to join these weekend's classes.
Yeah, so
So
that's
attendance may not be very encouraging. So you can start.
good. Because that's why the university was suggesting that this week classes should be up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I won't go very, very deep, but I
Yeah.
will teach up to a certain point and then we'll um, close the class early, right? Demand and supply, from the top of my head, if I'm going to conduct a mission, this would be one area that you would have a mission on. And if you are going to write an exams, I'm sure you would have demand and supply there. So it's a very, very important topic. So I don't know. Maybe they will have the recording, but the recording will not be um, good enough like you being in class and asking questions. So it's 15, let's start, and then we would move on from there. Or let me wait till 8:20, 5 more minutes, and then I'll start. By which time I hope I'll get more people. Because this is not even, I mean, 50% of the class is this 50% of the class is 82. So this is like 20% of the class. So let me start around 8:20. So please call those that you need to call. Thank you. Okay, so it's time. Let's start. So because of those who cannot join, you can have the recording again. I'm going to teach up to a certain point, and then I will stop, because if I continue to teach for the 2 hours, I might teach certain things that they would also miss. Please remember, if there's going to be a mission, the mission is going to come from lesson 1, lesson 2. That is the first slide and this particular one. So please take note. Now, I am starting with demand, and then I'll move to supply, then I'll move to equilibrium. Right? Then I'll move to elasticity. So, if you bear with me, let me start. So this is what we're doing. And then after completion, you should know what we call the determinant. You should know how to calculate. You should know how to distinguish between elastic and elastic. And then you should especially know how to draw the graph, because most of the questions I'll give you will be graphical. There will be some calculation, but you would do a lot of graphical interpretation. So I'll give you a scenario, and then I'll ask you to draw a graph to depict the scenario. So please take note of that, and then you will demonstrate critical thinking when it comes to elasticity, equilibrium, and how it is used in everyday life and everyday. The first question everybody will ask is, what is demand? Because the word demand is used in English language to mean so many things. Right? It is used in the English language to mean so many things. But I'm going to take it from the economic perspective, because the way economists interpret demand is different from the way you and I will interpret that same demand if we are or if we are non-economists. So please pay attention. Now, in your attempt to define demand, there are some things you must know. The key word is willing, able. Those are the key words you should take note of. So demand is basically a total quantity that customers are willing and able to purchase. Demand can be represented in 3 ways. I'll talk about that. But those 3 ways are: one, the demand function. I will use DD function. Two, the demand schedule. And then 3, the demand curve. I repeat, demand can be represented in 3 ways. One is the demand schedule. 2 is the demand function. 3 is the demand curve. So those are the 3 ways. Now, I always ask a very simple question. And that question will lead us to the second point that you can see. And that is, if you go to the market and prices are high, what would you do? If you go to the market, you have your budget. You go there and then the prices increase. What will you do? Emmanuel Kwesi Otu, what will you do?
I'm sorry, I just joined.
Okay,
I missed some few parts of the question. Thank you.
okay. Then I'll skip you. Aaron,
Okay, good morning, sir.
good morning, Mr. Arthur.
Yes, sir. So, when you go to the market and prices have increased, based on your lists you have,
Mm-hmm.
you either would reduce your quantity you
Mm-hmm.
decide to purchase, and then you buy a few, although you
Okay.
need it, so you definitely buy, but then you cannot buy the quantity that you planned initially to buy.
Okay. So Aaron used a very good term, need and want. You must know the difference. I think we did that during our the third slide. There's a difference between needs and want. So please take note. So yes, Theophilus, your hand is up.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so when I go to the market and I realize the price has increased,
Yes, please.
I might change maybe the product I want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the brand. Let's say I want to buy water, bottled
Mm-hmm.
water, and
Yes.
I normally buy, let's say, Baltic.
Mm-hmm.
Baltic has increased. Next
Yes,
time,
please.
I'll just buy maybe Pella, or because definitely Pella might be a low price, I might buy Pella or maybe buy Belacqua. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay, good. So, Mr. Nutako, Innocent Delano, do you have any other thing before I come to Franklin Delali?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Nutako. Or is this Franklin? No.
No, this is Innocent Nota.
Okay.
So,
Do you have any other thing to say?
no, sir.
I know that you will say no. So, Franklin, please, your hand is up.
Okay, so good morning.
Good
So
morning.
when I go to the market and the prices of goods are high, per my list, I'll buy the things that I need first. Because on the list, I might have some things that I need immediately. That is my scale of preference. I might need the things that I need immediately. So I'll buy those things first before I would go to any other thing on the list.
Okay.
So that was what I'll do.
Thank you, Franklina. Why do I say Franklin? You see, it's Franklina. Sorry, I didn't know. So you see, it's a behavior that economists have studied over the period. And that behavior is what we call the demand function. And I'll show you. And the demand function is basically going to tell you how you and I, as consumers, will behave. You remember, we are consumers, we are customers, right? We don't produce anything. We are not producers. You and I, now, we consume the product. So we are able to look at a function. That functions are usually mathematical. So the demand function is just a behavior, a function that shows how the consumers behave. Likewise, the supply function shows how the suppliers behave. And then when we put these two together, it helps us describe how the markets behave. But again, What you have said is true. And I'll come to it. But I want us to know that there are two types of demand. There's what we call the direct demand and then the derived demand. Direct demand, those goods that purely for consumption purposes. These goods are purely for consumption purposes. When you buy them, you are just using it straight away. So for example, if I buy food, I'm using it. If I buy maybe wachi, it is purely for consumption purpose. Or even if I buy rice, if I buy uncooked rice and uncooked beans, I'll process it purely for consumption purposes. So these are direct demand. And a typical example are foodstuffs, water, bottled water and sachet water. These are typical examples. Then there is what we call the derived demand. The word is derived. And another name for it is intermediate. These goods, you cannot consume them, but rather you use them, right, to produce other goods. For example, if I buy, I know the steel example is there. If I want to prepare to work on an automobile, I need this. But what about the wood? If I buy a board, what can I use it for? Can I use it for anything? Unless what? I transform this board into maybe a wardrobe, a chair, or a table. So these are what we call derived demand. Now, what you have said, and all of what Franklina and Aaron and have said, in the third person, I think I've forgotten the name. So what they have said is all based on these two things: quantity demanded and the law of demand. I'll start with the law, because the law is what you people have all said. And before you state the law, you must state what I have underlined. All other things remaining unchanged. In those who went to O level, A level, O level, and those who were, how do you call it, in secondary school, SS before SHS, if you had economic students in your midst, you hear this all the time. All other things remaining unchanged. Some will say all things being equal. But we prefer all other things remaining unchanged. Or the Greek word, ceteris paribus. The Greek word is, I hope my writing is clearer. Ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus. The quantity demanded, please take note. The quantity demanded of a good increases as the price decreases, and vice versa. Or in the books, you see people say all things being equal, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. Or the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. That is rationality. If you assume that, that's why we say all things being equal, so that you won't ask, what if it is something that you do not like? We assume that in the state of nature, as human beings, if all other things remain the same or unchanged, then you are likely to buy more of a good. Remember, we have not described the good, whether it is inferior, whether whatever goes, no. We are just saying the goods. Something that everybody would normally do is that when prices goes up, you buy less of it. When prices go low, you buy more of it. And please remember, it is saying the quantity demanded, not demand. If you write without the word quantity demanded, ladies and gentlemen, it is wrong. And I am very particular about these things. And please note, it is the quantity demanded of a good increases when price decreases, and vice versa, meaning it's what decreases when price what increases. And that is the behavior of you and I. When things are becoming expensive, we tend to buy less of it. And just as the Aaron or Co and then the rest have said, we start looking for alternative. Again, what then is quantity demanded? And in defining quantity demanded, I am also very particular about certain things. Willing to buy, and then able to buy. Given price over a given period of time. Remember, the amount of goods that consumers are, key point number one, willing to buy. Key point number two, able to buy. Key point number three, there must be a given price. Key point number four, over a period of time. Because you can go to a place, I mean, you see certain things, certain items. Maybe you want to buy a Ferrari or whatever they call it. You get there, and the question is, are you willing to buy? Yes, because it's your dream car. The next question is, are you able to buy? No. There is no demand. So I can give a scenario. Mr. A goes to a shop. He sees a very nice ball pen. He is willing to buy the pen, but not able to buy the pen. Is there a demand? Explain your answer. You must know that willingness must be accompanied with what? Ability. And there's a nice song they have been, those who are old will listen. And I'll say it briefly before I move to the next one. But before I say it, you must also know that prices.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Learned this area you started last week.
I started last week.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let me just move. No, well, okay. Well, your people said I didn't treat it. Okay, let's move. So, but for the benefit of those who are tired, let me just go. But remember, the most important thing is that you must be willing, able, and there must be a given right. And again, look at the relationship. And this is the relationship. The law of demand is always a negative or an inverse relationship between price and the quantity of the goods demanded. So that is why the curve is like that. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention. I said there are three ways. This is a schedule. And remember, if price is 4, you are prepared to buy it. What about if price move to 16? The individual is prepared to buy 1. What have you noticed? Price is increasing. quantity demanded is what? Decreasing. Always an inverse relationship or a negative relationship. Now, the demand curve, remember, we have said it is downward sloping. And this is just pinpointing the relationship between price and quantity demanded. And please note, this is the third approach to the demand function. Demand. And that is the demand function. Look at the relationship. If in mathematics, if I do this, what is the sign in front of Q? Who knows the sign in front of Q?
Equal to
Pardon me?
an assignment or equation.
No, before Q.
Listen,
Positive.
positive.
Oh,
Positive. There's a positive sign in front of Q. But look at the sign in front of P. Forget about the number. What sign is in front of P?
Negative.
negative.
Negative. So you see that positive, negative. And you know, when you multiply positive and negative, which one is stronger?
Negative.
Negative. That's why we say there is what? A negative or an inverse relationship. And as I said, you can't do economics without mathematics. So in economics, you do mathematics, statistics, and you must know how to draw your graphs. Because economics at the higher level is basically mathematics. They do the mathematical intuition of the economic theory. And we do the statistical intuition of the economic theories that we've been learning. Now, please pay attention here. We said all things being equal, as some people say, or ceteris paribus, or all other things remaining unchanged. These things that we have held constant, they are called determinants. And please remember, apart from own price, apart from this, everything here will lead to a shift in the demand curve. And I don't know if I said it here that when demand shifts to the right, it is what? Did we get here? Did we finish this particular slide?
Yes, sir.
When demand shifts to the right, it's called what?
Positive shift.
It is called beautiful.
A
It means you
positive
didn't
shift.
watch the news. You didn't watch the video or the recording, or you didn't have the recording, which is which? Did you watch the video recording? Class captains, did you give them the recording?
Yes, sir.
So it means you people didn't even watch the recordings after all. So, I mean, if you are not watching it, then what's the essence of recording?
Hello,
Or
sir.
listening to the audio? Then what's the essence? Let's move on. I said that when you have a demand curve,
Yeah, we are watching it.
but I asked a simple question. If I treated this and I asked a simple question, you should be able to tell me. I said this, and I said that if it moves to the right, if it moves to the right this way, we say there's an increase in demand. Yes. If it moves to the left, we say there's what? A decrease. So, but it is only own price that leads to what? A movement along the demand curve. I said this, if truly I thought this, then I should have said it. I said it in, so please pay attention. The most important thing here is all others from income to distribution, all of them will lead to a shift in the demand curve. The only thing that will lead to a movement along the same demand curve is a change in own price. And please pay attention here. When it comes to the determinants, these are the determinants. I've given you 6 or so. Okay, I remember somebody talked about the weather and all that, and I said taste and preference, and I was, yes, that's right. So please take note. These are things that will lead to a shift in the demand curve. A typical example is when we are looking at the type of goods. The type of good can be complementary or substitute. Remember, if a good is complementary, all that is saying is that they are used as a pair. You cannot use one without the other. That is simple. If the goods are complementary, you cannot use one without the other. And a typical example is a vehicle without a fuel, right? I won't say, let's forget about the EV, but generally, in Ghana and most part of the world, vehicles go with fuel. If you don't have fuel in your vehicle, you cannot run. Or a vehicle without a tie. I mean, how do you even move it? So these are complementary. Or your pen. If you have a pen or a pencil, then it's likely you must have a book or any pen paper. These are complementary. Then we have substitute. They are alternative to each other. And somebody gave a very good example, Pella and then Belapa issue. Right, these are all bottled water. They can be used in place of the other. So please pay attention here. Usually for substitute, if the price of one goes up, maybe if the price of maybe Bell, let me call it Bell, goes up, what people will do is that they will move there to maybe buy Pearl. Is it Pearl? Is it Pearl? What? Pearl, whatever drinking water. So look at this. If the price of Bell Aqua goes up, people will move to buy Pella drinking water or whichever drinking water there is. Why? So one price is triggering the other to behave in a certain way. So these are substitute. Remember the relationship, price of one, quantity of the other. But when it comes to complement, what happens in complement is if the price of maybe cars goes up, right? People cannot buy more cars. So what will happen to the demand for fuel? The fuel will go down. Let me call it fuel. So in the case of complement, there's an inverse relationship. In the case of substitute, there's a positive relationship. Then again, then you have to also look at the classification of the good, whether the good is a normal good or an inferior good. And remember, these classifications, some are mostly individual specific, though they might hold generally for most people. For example, a normal good, I mean, the demand for normal goods will always go up when your income increases. So for normal goods, increase in income, usually we use Y for income in economics. When you see Y, usually it's for income. Increase in income implies that increase in the demand for normal good. For inferior good, when your income increases, it implies that you decrease your quantity. And remember, I said what is normal and what is inferior is individual specific. In fact, in most cases, for example, if your income increases the tendency that you buy more of maybe a designer clothing is high. Or you buy more of, if you like print is high. Again, if it's an inferior good, when your income increases, you buy less of it because your level has changed. As somebody sang the song, levels don't change. Once level changes, you must also change your attitude. For example, I mean, how many of you will go to the hotel or a restaurant and say, I want a bar to eat? There are very few. And for those people, maybe the bar is not an inferior good. But for majority of Ghanaians, you don't go and say, I want a bar to eat. Or you go to office and then you say, I want to drink soakings. If your income increases, I mean, it's difficult for you to drink soakings. Or it will be difficult for you to say you want soakings. Maxam, true of us. Some Asirifi Ampofo, true of us. Say Hayford, yeah, true of us. I mean, some of the people, they just joined. They are not even in class. Owusu Judith, true of us.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm with you, true of us.
Sir, please, could you repeat the question again? Escape me.
I said it. I'm saying that if your income increases, there are certain goods you will not really enjoy. You will not buy. You will not go in for. For example, Gary, how many of you will go to the office and say, I'm preparing showcase to drink? Or I want to go to a restaurant and say you order a bar. For most Ghanaians, they see these products as what? Inferior goods or true of us.
That's true, sir.
Sir, true.
No, that's all
As
I
your,
was thinking.
as your income increases, your taste also changes.
Yeah, but you have even moved to another this thing I'll talk about. So remember this, and I remember saying go and read about gifting goods and then snob or bubbling good. These are very important. I might ask questions on them, but I won't take. Now, another thing, I think somebody mentioned, I don't know who mentioned it. I didn't take the name necessarily. He talks about taste and preference, and this is very key. There are some people, no matter what, whether income, whatever happens, they will go in for those particular goods because they have a taste and preference for it. I have an office mate who would always, when you give him bottled, anything bottled drink, he will always go in for Coke. Bottled drink, he will always go in for Coke. It's taste and preference. For example, people like a certain brand of a product. So even if the product increases astronomically, they will still go in for that product. So taste and preference will influence that. So please take note of that. And sometimes it will also not influence. For example, I mean, there are there are certain individuals who see certain foodstuffs as taboo. So their preference for it is equal to 0. Now, expectation about future prices is also very key. If you expect prices to, for example, because last week I was expecting fuel prices to reduce, I didn't buy fuel. In fact, I was running very low on fuel. What I did was I bought 100 cedis worth of fuel because I knew the following morning prices will what? Will reduce. So once you expect future prices to fall, you buy less now in anticipation of the future. If you expect it to increase tomorrow, you buy less now. So expectation of the future is very, very key. That is why during the bumper season of tomatoes and getting to the tail end when tomato seems to be running out of season, people buy a lot and store in their deep freezers and co. Right? Expectation of future prices. Then we have advertisements. Now, I would say that whenever advertisement is just to, you see, the more information overdose that you have, and the more people give recommendation goodwill about the product, the more likely you are.
Yeah.
What?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So I just heard you said when you expect the prices to increase in the future, you buy less now, or you buy more now.
No, did I say that? I was saying that expectation, when you expect future prices to increase, you buy less now. I'm expecting fuel price to increase tomorrow. Will I buy more now or?
Why? I think you have to buy more.
Yes,
Why?
that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. Oh, okay.
No, yeah,
Yes.
say
I was
yeah.
saying that if you expect prices to increase tomorrow, okay, so if you expect price to increase tomorrow, you buy more now. Yes, of course. But if
Yes,
you
yes.
expect prices to reduce tomorrow, if you expect P to go up tomorrow, you buy more now. If you expect, let me use let me draw my curves let me draw my arrows very well. Erase, okay, so good. So let's talk about future prices. If I expect prices to increase tomorrow, I'll buy more now. Now, if I expect prices to reduce tomorrow, right? If I expect it to reduce tomorrow, I'll buy less now. And then that's what I said, or I changed it.
First, you changed this, sir. But thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Then inadvertently, I said that. Right. So just use the arrows, and I like to use a lot of transmission. We call this transmission mechanism. It makes life very easy for me. So if you expect prices to increase, you buy now. But again, in other words, if you expect prices to go up, you buy less tomorrow. You buy less quantity tomorrow. So you buy more now, vice versa. Now let's talk about advertisement. Now this is very key. Once you have a lot of companies advertise because they want to change the subconscious mind of people about their brands and their products. So the more you have what we call advertisement overdose, the more the likely you are to purchase those products, right? And again, advertisement is like it's forming the subconscious mind. For example, I always wonder why this issue about photo shoot on birthday is on a high. Because it started with the celebrities and others. On their birthday, they go out, take this, do that. So, I mean, it was a form of advertisement. and then subconsciously it's influenced people, and now it's become a whole thing. Now, for example, in my house, I always say that one advertisement that will never go without my small girl dancing is the Sasso, right? So the more you advertise, the more subconsciously you influence people. So when you are going to buy a certain product, they would have that assumption that that product is of high quality, and then they are likely to buy. And that's why companies spend so much on advertisement. Because again, it also makes the product known. And once the product become known and a household name, it is likely people will buy more of that product. The next thing you would want to look at is the distribution of income. Right? The distribution of income has two major issues. Number one is whether the distribution is for the rural folk or for the urban, right? Again, the distribution of income will also be in terms of, you can look at the rich, the poor. Do we have the middle class? Do we
Yes.
still have the middle class? Are we sure we have the middle class? I think that you're either rich or you're poor.
Well, we do have middle class.
I know there's middle class, but I'm still wondering whether whether we still have them. Because the middle class is supposed to influence a lot of policies. But
Yes,
it's
you have,
missed.
sir. You have middle class.
So how will you classify middle class?
Someone who breaks even on everything on their finances.
Your definition of middle class is interesting. Break even. Okay, so there we have the rich, the middle class, and then the poor. Right. If you look at this,
We
they have
have poor as well.
we have what?
So we have poor and poorer, more poor.
Okay, let's classify all of them as poor, middle class. So if you look at this, the distribution of income influences the demand for the products. True or false? For example, a poor person, what is usually poor people, what will be their demand for certain product? Let me take sardine, right? What will be the demand for sardine for a poor person?
The demand will be less.
Less.
To be less.
Yes. What about a rich person?
High.
High. Okay. What about eating out? Right? Eating in restaurant. A restaurant. A poor person, what will be the demand?
Less.
Less. A rich person.
High.
High.
So the distribution of income
To
can
be low.
influence. Now, for rich, the demand to eat out is always high. Again, you can look at it in terms of area of location. So you have the urban, what they call the peri-urban, and then the rural, right? For rural folks, their demand is different. The peri-urban, like those in Kaswa and those, they are not too urban, but they are, I mean, within them, you can find both urban and rural settings. Then we have the urban people, like those in East Legons and then those other flashy areas. With this distribution of income, it's also going to affect what product they go in for. So this is very important. Again, there are other factors I've not talked about, like seasonality, the weather conditions, and all that, and even technology can even influence our demand. And for example, the rainfall, you and I are witness to it. How does the rainfall affect us? Right? The rainfall, once you have a heavy pour, it's going to affect the demand. That day, what happened to the demand for transport? Can anybody hazard a guess? Can anybody
The
hazard a guess?
demand for
The demand
transport
was
increased, sir.
high.
Was very high.
Very high. Good. And what about, so you can even look at infrastructure, road network, right? If you don't drive and then you live in a certain area and the road is not good, what happens to the demand for transport? You can look at all that. Again, you can look at technology. How is technology affecting our demand for graphic designers? How is technology affecting our demand for graphic designers?
Because now,
Mm-hmm.
it seems now we do most of the things we want to do on the phone. Sometimes you can just do some regular or just the normal editing, and then you post it as a flyer without you going for the hard copy or what have you.
But
you can even use AI and other
AI,
stuff to do, even
right.
if you don't know how to do it.
Yes, so technology is making so that we are less dependent on these graphic designers and co. This AI is doing the job, right? So there are a lot of factors that influence demand. Remember, I cannot list all of them. So when you read, please read broadly. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so, but if I'm going to ask you, I'll ask you more than that, so that I'll find out the very good students might have read and gotten extra. So we know the very good student from the good student, or the excellent student, the very good student, the good student, and then we move in order. Now, remember I said that the determinants are the factors that shifts the demand curve. Remember, I also said that when demand shifts to the right, it is an increase in the demand. When the demand curve shifts to the right, it leads to an increase in the demand. When it shifts to the left, it leads to a decrease in the demand. And most of these things here, if you look at them, with the exception of this, all of them are non-price. Most of them are non-price. Future expectation of price. These are expectations, right? So, in other words, we are just going to say that the change in demand is as a result of what? A change in any of the non-price determinants of demand, any of the non-price determinants of demand. What it presupposes is that anytime the non-price determinant changes, demand will shift. But when the price of the good changes, we move on the same curve. We move on the same curve. So a movement from A to B is due to a change in what the price of the good. Please note, all things remaining unchanged. Again, these are the demand curve, and I said that you must always pay attention to the demand. A change in demand is not the same as a change in quantity demanded. Please take note. A change in demand comes about because the determinants have changed. A change in quantity demanded is as a result of the change in own price. 2, a change in quantity demanded will lead to a shift in the curve, whether to the right or to the left. A change in quantity demanded will lead to a movement along the same demand curve. So from, let's say, A to B, is a change in quantity demanded. Is this? Now, from this to this is a change in demand, or yes, a change in demand. So this is a change in demand. Here, A to B is a change in quantity demanded. Please take note of that. Very, very important, because I'll be setting a lot of questions on it. Now, let's summarize it. To summarize it, we can look at it and say that when there's a change in price of a good, or service, it leads to what? A change in quantity demanded, or a movement along the curve. Again, when there's a change in income preferences, and all this, when you look at this, change in income preferences or prices of related goods and services, they lead to what? A change in demand, or a shift in the demand curve. Please take note of that. Now, let's quickly move on. I have talked about most of these things, so I'm just going to brush through. What about if your income changes? I have said that higher income decreases in inferior goods. Of course, I have said that again. Higher income increases in normal good. I have said that earlier, so I'm not going to repeat it again. Again, what if the price of related goods increases? So those of you who like high life, you know hamburgers, right? Then of our access or even take one. Okay? So now, if the price of hamburger increases, and those of you who eat burgers, you know that you cannot eat burgers without ketchup. You cannot eat burgers without ketchup. So just a if you look at burger, you cannot eat burger without ketchup. So if the price of burger increases, what is going to happen is that you cannot eat burger without ketchup. So if the price of burger increases, your demand for ketchup will decrease. Right? Ketchup and all those things will decrease. So it's like this. If the demand,
Can you take that again? When the demand for burger increases,
when the price
when
of
the price of burger,
increases,
okay.
when the price of burger increases, your demand for ketchup, which is the complement, will decrease.
Why would it decrease? I thought it would also increase.
No,
Okay.
it will not increase. Typical example. Let me even take away the burger and the ketchup. Let me bring it to vehicles and fuel. Right? If if the price of vehicles goes up, what will happen to the demand for fuel?
It will decrease. It will decrease.
Okay.
Decrease.
So please, have I answered your question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So anytime complement goes up, there's always a challenge. If the price of one complement goes up, the other will decrease. because people are not buying more cars because prices are going up. What happens to the demand for fuel? It will also decrease. What if it is a substitute? If it's a substitute, then it is the opposite. It will rather what? Increase. So for example, if the price of Bell Aqua increases, what happens to the demand for Pella or any other how do you call it?
Bottled water.
Bottled water. What do you think will happen to it?
Yeah, the others who also have their demand go high.
Demand go up. Now, if you look at the bottled water market, you would take it. If you've ever studied it, the price differentials is not so huge. The difference in their prices is not so huge. If you've noticed, if you haven't, just take a look at how much is Belacqua. Let's say the small size.
2 CD 50 pesos.
2 CD 50 pesos. How much is that of Bella? How much is others? Maybe a week or any other thing.
I think they are the same prices. So.
Yes, around the same price. So you see that it's just because they know any trigger in price will lead to them losing their customers. So they try to price within a certain, I always say plus or minus 50 pesos. There are only few cases where it is the retailers and then who usually put even more price on it. And they do that sometimes because of location. And because of where you are buying it from. If you're in a vehicle and they put ice on it, then you have to pay for the ice. So
Hello, sir.
I would, yes, please.
All right, so I want to find out this. In a
Yes.
case whereby a substitute goes having the
Mhm.
same prices, let's assume that they are of the same prices, 2 cedi, 2 cedi, 2 cedis for
Mhm.
each of the products.
Yes.
The demand for this particular would then boils back to the taste and preference of what?
So one taste and preference will come in. Income will also be a contributory factor. I get it. So remember, we held all these things constant. And if we allow all of them to simultaneously move, the curve will be very messy. So at our level, we keep them at the low. We hold all those other constants and say, if this one moves, if this one changes, if this one does that. But remember, simultaneously, all these are influencing it at the same time. For example, I going to buy, if the prices are the same, and then I want to buy, I will look out for one, I look out for the, I look out for one, what is the nutritional value of the product, right? Somebody will not look at it and says, well, I'm looking out for
The size.
the size. So that's why, remember I said that it varies from individual to individual, but we make the assumption holding all things constant and assuming that everybody is a rational human being. So in economics, rationality is a very key component. Why? Because we assume that if these things are goods that in the market, everybody will go this way because we are rational. But it varies. Rationality will also be subjective. And individuals have their own things they look out for when they are going for certain things. For example, when I want to buy a certain product, I go to the mall. Even though it might be cheaper elsewhere, But I go to the mall because I think that I am assured of quality. I might be wrong. Right? So a lot of things that go into it. I stay closer to the Bell product, the Bell company. Right? If I want to buy in bulk, I go straight to that place. Even though there's a company, there's a lady who does wholesale very close, who can give it to me at the same price. I don't know, but subconsciously, that is it. Cheers. Also answer.
Yes, sir. I wanted to
Yes,
contribute to what you were saying.
yes, please. Please
So,
do.
yeah, my mom runs a grocery shop, and the prices of these soft drinks, especially the Coke and the Pepsi drinks, they were previously at the same prices. But as time goes by, I think production costs and all that contributed to an increase in the price of the Coca-Cola products. So what I realized, having sat by the shop for a while, is that we could sell, let's say, 10 crates of Pepsi products, whereas, let's say, in a span of a month, we would have only sold like 2 crates of Coke due to the price increase. And it's the same liter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is a very valid contribution. And remember, I've tried as much as possible to stay out of the supply market, because the next thing we'll be talking about will be supply. So I'm just assuming that these are the things. So please indulge me. Let me finish and then I'll move to the supply market. Now demand can be individual, can be market. Now, market because each settings has its own prices. For example, if somebody is staying at Medina, the price for some product in Medina will be different from if somebody is staying in maybe East Legon, or I go and eat somewhere at the restaurant, even by restaurant to buy. I remember we looked at the distribution of income, and then I talk about the nature and peri-urban, urban, and then the rural. So look at this. This is household A. This is maybe also Answer's household. And then this is maybe Theodora's household. When price is 3, they are buying how many? 4. Can you all see?
Yes, sir.
This also, when price is 3, they are buying what? 6. So at the market condition, we keep prices constant and we add the quantity. So 4 plus 6 is equal to 10. So look at this, 3 here. What about if it is 4? If prices is 4, we buy 3. If price is 4, we buy 4. So it is 3 plus 4. That is what? 7. At which price? At price what? 4. So that is how we calculate the market demand. And if next week, next 2 weeks I will teach a bit of macroeconomics. I want to blend the two. I'll teach a bit of macroeconomics, and you see how this goes to add up at the aggregate level. And that is how this is what we do, and we get what we call the consumption at the national income level. And this is what is done. So various markets, you keep the price constant, and then you keep adding the quantities at the same price. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with demand for now. We'll come and put them together. Let's come to supply. And supply, I'll move a bit faster. So, for supply, we just need to look at this. Supply, 1. The quantity supply is just like we did for demand. The number of units that what sellers want to sell over a specified time period at a particular price. Remember, prices over a period of time, because within a period, prices can change. For example, festivity period, prices can change. For example, during the rainy season, prices can change. That's why we say a period of time. In fact, when the flood came on Monday, because vehicles were becoming scarce, what did the suppliers do? Those the suppliers at the total direct, they decided to say, take it or leave it. We are charging 100% extra. And you had no option. Though you will say it is illegal, but that is rationality for the supplier's point of view. So look at this. If that is the case, if you are a supplier of a good, what are you looking out for? All things being equal, all things remaining unchanged. If you what? Supply more if prices increases. Supply more if prices increases. And I'll tell you this. When Ghana played the first match, right? When Ghana played the first match and we won, I have a colleague who was selling jersey. The price of the original jersey went up. They were prepared to, people were in that frenzy, they wanted to buy more. So the people would increase the price and people were buying. Now that Ghana has lost, for me, I didn't want the match because I knew they won't win. So now that Ghana has lost, what do you think will happen to the price of jersey? What will happen to the demand for it? Or you realize that people want less. People will be forced to reduce the price. So but for suppliers, whenever there is an increase in price, they want to supply more. And this is how the supply curve is. What that is telling us is that there is a positive relationship between price and the quantity of goods supplied, such that if price increases, where's my arrow? If price increases, we tend to supply what? More. If price decreases, we supply less. So the supply curve is upward sloping. And please do not be deceived. Whenever price is increasing, suppliers want to cash in. So look at this. At price 1, I'll say I'll give 20, I'll give you 2. But when price goes to 20, you are supplying 35. Why? Because there is an incentive. Because he's a businessman who is supplying you the goods. And he knows that if price is increasing and I'm able to sell more, I'll make more profit. So there exists a positive relationship between price and quantity. So look at the relationship here. You see Q, this has a positive sign, P has a positive sign. So whenever price is going up, Q is also increasing from the supplier's perspective. What are the determinants of supply? And we talked about the cost. And I said I didn't want to talk about the cost because I wanted to hold on for it for a while. But just as he said, cost of production will influence technological progress, will influence price of related outputs, and then government policy. So you see price of related output. That is why competitors, if we happen to do market structure, you understand, it is like a game of chess. If for those of you who know how to play a game of chess, you try to look at each other's strategy and overcome that strategy or outwit the other. So this is price of related. That is why when you go to the market, generally prices of related goods are actually the price differential is not so huge. Why? Because if the price differential is very huge, people will shift to another the cheaper one. And just as the Chinese ambassador asked about their product, he says people like cheap things. So they supply it. And if you look at it, look at yourself. There are certain things when you're going to buy and the price is high, you will not buy. So businesses have learned that strategy. That is why the Chinese go, they don't care. I mean, our businessmen who go there, they know that when they bring the top quality goods, won't buy, who complain. So they bring the cheap ones. So that said, the cost of production. And we'll use the person who gave me the example with Coca-Cola and then Pepsi. Please, I think I've missed the name. The name again.
Which one, sir?
Yes, Owusu answer. Yes, I have a lot of Owusu answer friends. So as Owusu answer said, once the cost goes up, you must know it's going to affect the supply. And anytime cost goes up, usually supply will decrease. Why? Because now it becomes very expensive to produce. And once it becomes very expensive to produce, you cannot supply that you used to supply. Remember, businesses have scarce resources. So they will not want to devote all their resources towards the production of that only one particular good. So they reduce that, the production of that. The next one is technological progress. Once there is an increase in technology, what happens to the per unit cost? Initially, technology is expensive, but with time, it becomes cheaper to produce. So you can, but with technology, you can produce more. And I give an example with the AI taking over the market. I mean, if I decide that I'm going to give you an assignment, I mean, some time ago, you would take maybe 2 or 3 days. Now with AI, within 30 minutes, you can even supply me the assignment, sometimes even less. So technology, you can produce more. Now, and I'll give another example. When you adopt technology in your design, let's say you're a graphic designer, you use AI to do. If those days, if you were typing the obituary or the funeral brochure, I said obituary, you are typing the funeral brochure, what happens is it takes a longer time. Now with AI, all that you need to do is to put in whatever you need. Now, sometimes you don't even need to type. You need to what? Voice from these voice things. You can see it over the AI automatically writes everything down. You edit if you're sure. Off you go. Technology makes things faster. Right? But again, it comes at a cost. But you can produce more with technology. That is why in Ghana, we have problem with water. Why? Because most of the technology we are using have been there since Nkrumah became president, especially the Accra lines. They've been there since Nkrumah became president, and they haven't seen any change. So that is one. Number two is that price of related output. This I will not say much about it because I've explained over and over again. The last but not the least, please remember there are more factors. So please read around it. And last but not the least is government policy. If government policy is to increase production or to increase business activity, businesses will buy into it and then they will produce more. So you will hear, those of you listening to the business news, you hear the government is saying, I am giving incentives to businesses. Why? Because government wants to businesses to what? Increase production, increase their output. Why? Because if you are increasing output and consumption is going up, there's always a tendency for you to expand. And once you expand it, you are going to what? Employ more. For example, when I read the, how do you call that? The NBC's what's that they have this, their industrial thing. What's the name? Oh, it's led by this Busitano guy. Please, anybody who can help me.
24-hour economy.
Yes, the 24-hour economy. Thank you. When you read this thing, they tell you that for business, they are encouraging businesses to come under the 24-hour economy. They are giving them a lot of tax incentive. But one of the cardinal things they want is businesses should increase production and then increase employment. And you must show evidence that you are increasing what? Employment. So government policy can influence. Under the S1 government, it was 1D, 1F, right? So companies that were going to register under 1D, 1F was to enjoy some holidays so that they can also increase production. But I always have a problem if it's anything political, anything that politicians say, because, of course, it's usually not lasting. After the change of government, most of these policies don't come to fruition. That's why I fight for a national developmental policy owned by the Ghanaian, irrespective of which government comes in. Those policies will run, and it will outlive any political party. Until then, we'll have the chess game which is being played. So back to this, government will always come with policies. And if you listen to government over the period, they, especially when president travels and the rest, they go out there, sometimes they go with business plan, and then they go and sell, they go and try to negotiate and to want foreign direct investment. So government policies are very key. In Africa, when it is election time, there's always a problem. Why? Because it's time for instability. That's what most white think. So around that time, you see a lot of expats leaving the country, a lot of foreign companies repatriating most of their profits. Why? Because they don't trust the system. So policies that we make, which are lasting, will influence supply. 24-hour economy is supposed to influence supply. Why? Because businesses are expected to come on board, increase output, increase production, and must show evidence of what? Increasing employment. Just like 1D, 1F was supposed to do. But I've said it, anything with politicians attached to it, and it's not nationally owned, has its own problem. So remember, all these factors will shift the supply chain. Now let's look at this. Remember, anytime you move from here to here, the same curve, we say it is a change in quantity supply. Anytime you move rather from SA to SB, we say it is a change in what? Supply. And if it moves to the right, it is an increase in the supply curve. If it moves to the left, it is a decrease in supply. Please take note. And remember, if you are here, and please pay attention here. I like this one. If I am here and I move from here to here, what have you noticed? Price has what? Gone up. Once price goes up, what happens to the quantity supply?
It also goes up.
It also goes up. But let's look at change in supply. Now, in change in supply, it is just the supply that has shifted. Remember, price remains the same. It hasn't changed. So look at this. If I'm here, price hasn't changed, and I want the change in supply, I'll be here. Initially, I was here. Supply was here. Now, supply. So what has happened? You see the quantum jump at the same price. What if I am here, P1? I used to be here. I'll move here. So I'm moving from here to here. You see the quantum jump. Please remember, in the change in supply, prices have not changed. It is just the quantity that has changed. So a typical example, if tomatoes is in season, what happens to the supply of tomatoes? The ladies in the class, help us. Theodora, if tomatoes is in season, what happens to the supply of tomatoes? Or the gentleman, you want to talk on their behalf?
They become
Supply
more
will be
cheap.
high.
Supply will be high. So what happened is that at the same price, you are getting more for the tomatoes. True or false?
True.
Yeah. So that is
True.
so. Remember, and this goes to the national. We can do aggregate supply at the national level. Every government wants firms to produce more. Once you are producing more and you are efficient, remember we looked at efficiency last week and last week, and you are efficient, you move here. At the same price, you are supplying more. People are what? Benefiting. They don't want an increase in price. No, they always want an increase in the supply because you get more for the same thing that you have. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are we saying? In a nutshell, remember, when changing price, movement along the supply curve. And if the determinant changes, there's what? A shift in the supply. So that's basically it. Take note of this. Take note of this. Whenever there's a change in price of a good or service, it leads to what? Change in quantity supply. Whenever there's a change in cost of input, technology, price, or related goods, it leads to what? Change in supply. And this will shift the supply curve. Please, let's pay attention to this. Any question? Any question? Okay. It's just about 15 minutes to time. I'll be closing anytime soon. The next thing I want us to do is the market and individual supply. The market and individual supply is just the same ideology as we've done for the demand. And please remember, the market supply is just the horizontal summation of individual firms' what supply curve. And this is basically the quantity. Please look at this. When price is 3, they are supplying what? 10,000. What about for firm B? When price is 3, they are supplying what? 30,000. And this is based on the capacity of the firm. What about firm C? When price is 3, they are supplying what? 25,000. So the market supply at price 3 is this plus this plus this. What I've underlined, 10 plus 30 is 40 plus 25. That's what? 65. What if price is 1.7 I supply 5,000, 10,000 here, 10,000 here. This plus this is 20 plus this 25. So what have you noticed? The higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied within the market. Any question?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Yes, so I want to find out once again, there are
Mhm.
instances whereby you would have the supply of a particular product increasing, and it will sometimes cause the prices of that particular product to reduce. I don't know if maybe you have experienced something like that before. What relationship does this have with in relation to the demand and the supply? Because some product or commodity will be supplying in excess, and this can cause the prices of that product to reduce in some cases.
Justice, you have asked a very, very, very important question, and that is my next slide. My next slide is what we call equilibrium. Now, all that we have been doing, we have treated the markets different. You and I know that the market is not different. Two of us. You won't go and then there's only suppliers here. You won't go and only there's only demand. People who consumers here, we meet together. And in economics, a market is just an institutional arrangement. It is not a place. So market is not a place where buyers and sellers meet. No, it's an institutional arrangement for buyers and sellers. And equilibrium is a perfect balance of what supply and demand. Again, at equilibrium, we are able to determine market output and price. And just as you have said, and it's here, we are going to look at it. Because of time, we won't finish this. Next week, we'll finish this slide because I have 15 minutes, and usually I want to give you more time. But just as don't worry, we are going to go there. So, for example, this is your scenario. This is a typical scenario you are talking about. This is equilibrium. Yes. We'll come and look at surplus and good. This is a typical scenario. You see, increase in supply, look at this, increase in demand. Prices are going up. Justice wants me to move like that, but I won't move. So please, just an illustration for justice to see. So we are in this market. Look at what we are doing. We are in this market. Nothing has changed. There is an increase in supply. Look at what has happened. What has happened to price? What has happened to quantity?
The price has reduced and the quantity too has increased.
So it answers your question, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so you see, the market is for you and I, the demand people and the supply people. And when we come together, the market dynamism begins to change. So next week, God willing, we would continue. I hope I put this slides on the learning management. Is it there? Please check. This week, because of the rain, a lot of things did not go as planned. So next week, we'll look at all this. We'll finish the slides next week, and then we'll move on. If it's not there, I'm going to put it there. Please read. We have some few things to do. And we'll come and look at the relationship between some things we call elasticity, and then revenue. We'll come and look at all this and the paradox. The paradox of the bumper harvest. It's an interesting thing, and why government interfere. It's always good to read. So please, let's read. Is there any question? Any question for us? Any question? Any question? Theodora, any question? David, any question?
No, please.
Okay. If there's no question, then, ladies and gentlemen, I will log out for you to enjoy your class. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.